The wreckage of the freighter Nova Gale hung silently against the blackness of space, sparks flying from torn metal panels and smoke drifting lazily into the void. Eli Ward, a human engineer, floated carefully through the debris-filled corridor, his oxygen thrusters keeping him steady. He had been sent on a routine rescue mission, something he had done dozens of times before, but the tension in this sector was different. The Velkari, a proud and dangerous warrior race, ruled these star systems, and humans were often treated like fragile toys. Still, Eli was determined. He had a simple rule: save lives whenever he could, no matter the cost. Through the twisted metal, he spotted a sealed cabin door, warped and scorched by fire. Sounds of shallow breathing came from inside. Eli quickly set his repair tools aside and pried the door open with careful strength. A cloud of smoke poured out, choking him slightly, but he forced himself to focus. Inside he saw her. A Velkari female, her purple-hued skin marred with burns and cuts, her limbs trapped under debris. Her golden eyes, bright even through the soot, flickered open with panic and confusion. "Hey, I'm here to help," Eli said, voice calm but urgent. "You're going to be okay." She shrieked instinctively, her body writhing. Velkari instincts were sharp, fast, and violent. Before Eli could react, she lunged and bit his shoulder with strength that made him grunt. Pain shot through him, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he wrapped his arms gently around her, carefully lifting her from the debris. "Easy, easy," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you." The Velkari's claws scraped against the metal floor as she fought, but Eli held her firmly, making sure not to cause more injury. Outside, a team of Velkari medics hovered, unsure whether to intervene. Seeing a human remain calm even after being bitten surprised them. Usually, humans would react with rage or panic. Eli's calm was something they did not understand. Finally, Eli managed to carry her through the smoke-filled corridor to the safety of the freighter's escape pod. Sparks still flew from nearby panels, but he pushed forward, ignoring the burning in his shoulder. He secured her in the pod, quickly activating the auto-launch sequence. The pod rocketed away from the burning freighter, leaving flames and debris behind. As the pod floated through the quiet of space, the Velkari female's panic slowly subsided. She tried to speak, but her words were broken, choked by fear and confusion. Eli handed her a small med kit from the pod's emergency supplies. "You need this," he said. "I know you're scared, but I promise you're safe now." Her gaze lingered on him, golden eyes searching, wary yet curious. She wanted to recoil, to strike again, but something about his calm voice and gentle movements disarmed her. She took the med kit hesitantly, her claws trembling slightly. Eli assisted her, treating her burns and scratches with careful precision. When the medkit was done, she leaned back, exhausted. Why did you help me?" she asked, voice weak and trembling. Eli smiled faintly. "Because it's the right thing to do. No one deserves to die if I can prevent it." Her brow furrowed in confusion. Among the Velkari, humans were seen as fragile, unreliable, and reckless. They fought for survival in ways the Velkari often mocked. Yet this human, wounded and bitten, had risked his life to save her. That was unusual. By the time they arrived at the nearest Velkari station, the news had already spread. A human had rescued a Velkari commander, and she had bitten him during the rescue. The situation quickly escalated as Velkari law was considered strict and unyielding. Eli had not known, but the Velkari followed an ancient tradition. When a warrior bit someone and was subsequently protected by that person, a blood bond was unintentionally formed. It was considered sacred and legally binding, a mate bond recognized by galactic law. The council summoned them both, demanding an explanation. Sira Velkor, the Velkari female, felt her pride and honor on the line. She had never experienced anything like this before. She had been raised to fight, to command, to never appear weak. And now, because of a bite given in a moment of panic, she was bound to a human she barely knew. Eli, meanwhile, had no idea what was happening. He tried to explain that it was an accident, that he had acted only to save her life. But the council listened politely, then dismissed his protest. The law was clear. The bond existed, and it could not be undone. Syra's emotions were conflicted. She felt anger, disbelief, and a strange, unrecognized admiration. This human had risked himself for her, had held her gently even after she bit him. His calmness, his refusal to react with vengeance, these things were foreign to her experience. And yet she couldn't deny the growing curiosity she felt. The council's decision caused waves across the station. Ambassadors and leaders whispered about the human engineer claimed by a Velkari warrior. Some saw it as an opportunity to unite species, others as a dangerous precedent that might destabilize alliances. Meanwhile, Syra struggled to maintain her composure in front of Eli, who remained unaware of the political and cultural storm surrounding them. Days passed in the medbay quarters as Syra recovered from her injuries. Eli assisted with her treatment, remaining patient and respectful. He fixed broken systems on the station, recalibrated environmental controls, and even repaired a shuttle that had been damaged during the battle. All the while, Syra observed him. His dedication, calmness, and courage stood in stark contrast to the aggressive, prideful warriors of her world. One evening, after a long day of repairs, Syra finally spoke. "You are different from what I expected," she said, her voice quieter than before. "Most humans are afraid or reckless or both. You are calm." Eli looked up, wiping his hands on a rag. "I do my best," he said simply. "Fear doesn't help anyone. Anger doesn't fix anything. Sometimes you just have to act." She studied him silently. In the quiet, she realized that she was beginning to respect him, and perhaps something more. She didn't understand it yet, but she felt a strange sense of trust. The following day, news arrived that rogue Velkari factions were displeased with the council's decision. They viewed the human as a threat to their traditions and sent warnings. Eli, unaware of the full danger, continued his work, helping the station with engineering tasks. Syra warned him of potential threats, but he only nodded, determined to stay by her side. Then the attacks began, small, precise, and sudden. Explosions rocked the station, alarms blared, and the corridors filled with smoke and chaos. Syra was prepared to defend herself, but she found Eli at her side, shielding her from falling debris, guiding her to safety, and risking his life without hesitation. Each time he was struck or burned, he remained focused, calm and determined. By the end of the day, the attackers were repelled, but the station bore heavy damage. Syra realized something important. This human wasn't just brave. He was selfless. He didn't act out of duty, law, or expectation. He acted out of choice. And the more she thought about it, the more she understood why the council considered the bond unbreakable. That night, as the station settled into uneasy quiet, Syra sat beside Eli in the medbay. He had patched his own wounds as best he could, but she noticed the small tremor in his hands from pain and fatigue. "Why do you keep helping me?" she asked softly. Eli smiled faintly, exhaustion evident in his posture. "Because someone has to. Because it's the right thing to do, and because I don't want to see you hurt again." Syra's golden eyes softened. She had never felt such loyalty before from anyone, human or Velkari. The warrior inside her, trained to dominate, to strike first and think later, felt strangely vulnerable. For the first time, she questioned her assumptions about humans, their courage and their strength. Across the galaxy, word of the human engineer claimed by a Velkari commander spread like wildfire. Some laughed at the absurdity. Others were intrigued, but none could deny the bravery Eli had shown, facing a Velkari warrior's bite, navigating a battle zone, saving her life, and continuing to protect her without complaint. By the time Part 1 concludes, Eli and Syra sit quietly in the medbay, wounded and exhausted, yet closer than either had imagined possible. Outside, the galaxy waits, curious and tense. Rogue factions stir, political leaders murmur, and both humans and Velkari begin to realize that this bond, forged in blood and courage, might change the future of interstellar relations forever. Syra's thoughts linger on the strange human beside her. She doesn't fully understand him yet, but she knows one thing. He is not like anyone she has ever met. And that thought both terrifies and fascinates her. The Galactic Council chamber was vast, a circular hall suspended above a glittering nebula, its walls lined with holographic displays and representatives from dozens of star systems. Eli Ward floated cautiously into the chamber, tethered to a support rail. He had never been in a place like this, surrounded by towering aliens of all shapes, colors, and forms. Velkari ambassadors, their bodies glinting in ceremonial armor, stared down at him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Syra Velkor walked beside him, her movements precise and controlled. Her golden eyes were sharp, but beneath her carefully maintained calm, a storm of thoughts churned. She had recovered from her injuries, but her pride was still wounded. She had spent her life as a commander, never questioned, never vulnerable. And now, because of a moment of panic and a bite given in self-defense, she was bound by law to a human, the council's moderator. A sleek and serpentine alien named Thalri spoke first, his voice echoing in the chamber. The matter before us is clear. A human has been claimed by a Velkhari warrior through the ancient bond of blood. Galactic law recognizes this bond. The question is how it will be managed without causing conflict. Murmurs swept through the chamber. Some factions leaned forward, intrigued by the unusual situation. Others whispered angrily, offended that a human could be part of a Velkhari legal tradition. Eli felt the weight of dozens of eyes on him, all expecting him to react. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I understand the law," he said, his voice steady. "But I am human. Our customs are different. I did not intend to claim or dominate anyone. I only acted to save a life. I will remain with Commander Syra, not out of obligation, but out of respect and duty to protect her while she is in danger." The chamber fell silent. No human had ever spoken so calmly in the presence of so many powerful alien races. Thalri tilted his head, observing Eli with sharp curiosity. Sira's eyes softened as she watched him speak. She had expected him to cower, to protest, to panic. Instead, he had spoken with clarity and courage. And despite the rigid formality of the council, she felt a flicker of something else, admiration and perhaps even trust. Days passed as the council debated. The Velkhari traditionalists argued for strict adherence to the law, insisting that Eli must accept the bond as permanent. Other factions, recognizing the human's courage and integrity, proposed a new interpretation, a voluntary bond, where both parties could choose to remain together. Meanwhile, Eli continued his work aboard the station. He repaired damaged life support systems, recalibrated power grids, and even helped train some of the station's engineers in human techniques. Syra observed, impressed by his resourcefulness. He was not the reckless human she had expected. He was capable, strong, and calm under pressure, qualities she had always respected in warriors, yet rarely seen in humans. One evening, as the station's artificial sun dimmed, an alarm blared. Rogue Velkhari extremists had infiltrated the station, intent on harming Syra to challenge the bond. Eli reacted instantly. He grabbed a nearby stun baton and moved to block their path, positioning himself between Syra and the attackers. The fight was chaotic, sparks flying from electrical panels as the intruders lashed out with sharp weapons. Syra activated her own combat protocols, her armor glowing with kinetic energy as she struck with precision. But even as she fought, she noticed Eli's courage, how he shielded her, deflected attacks, and stayed calm despite his smaller frame. He had no formal combat training like hers, yet he moved with instinctive bravery, placing himself in danger to protect her. One of the extremists managed to strike Eli's side, and he grunted, staggering slightly. Syra's instincts flared. She struck down her opponent, then turned sharply, catching Eli before he fell. Her golden eyes met his, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded. "You could have been killed," she said, her voice fierce and low. "I trust you've got my back," Eli replied, wincing but smiling faintly. "I've got yours." That moment shifted something fundamental between them. The council's law had forced their bond, but choice had made it real. They were no longer two beings bound by tradition. They were two individuals recognizing courage, respect, and loyalty in each other. The extremists were captured, and the station returned to uneasy calm. News of Eli's bravery spread quickly across the Velkhari networks. He had faced a warrior's rage, a law of blood, and rogue factions, and survived. He had protected Syra not because he was forced to, but because he chose to. In the following days, the council reached a historic decision. The ancient bond of blood would remain recognized, but its application would now allow mutual consent. Humans and Velkhari could honor the law without forcing one party into permanent servitude or dominance. Eli and Syra became the first pair to demonstrate this new interpretation, a symbol of unity, courage, and mutual respect between species. Despite the political implications, Eli remained humble. He continued repairing systems, training engineers, and ensuring the safety of the station. Syra, meanwhile, studied his methods, learning to appreciate human ingenuity. She noticed how he approached problems, calmly analyzing and solving them in ways she had never considered. One quiet evening, Sierra found herself walking with Eli through the observation deck. The vast nebula stretching beyond the station like a sea of stars. She watched him study the machinery and sensors with an almost meditative focus. "You could have walked away," she said softly, breaking the silence. Eli looked at her, his eyes steady. "Maybe, but I didn't want to. Someone had to make sure you were safe." Her expression softened. "You're different. Humans, I thought. I don't know. They are reckless, fragile, short-sighted. But you—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "You are brave, patient, and strong in ways I didn't understand." Eli smiled faintly. "I've always believed that courage isn't just about fighting. Sometimes it's about staying calm, helping others, and doing the right thing even when it's hard." Sierra nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. She realized that her feelings toward him had shifted. What had begun as law, obligation, and duty had become something real. Trust, respect, and perhaps the beginnings of admiration, even something deeper she dared not name. Weeks later, the station was restored. Diplomats visited to learn from the human who had survived the Velkari bite, who had protected a commander, and who had remained calm in the face of chaos. Eli and Sierra were celebrated not only for surviving, but for demonstrating that humans could match warriors in courage, not through brute strength alone, but through choice, intelligence, and loyalty. As they stood on the observation deck one final time before departure, Sierra turned to Eli. "You have changed my understanding of humans. You are extraordinary." Eli shrugged modestly. "I just did what anyone should do. Help someone in need, protect them when they're in danger, and try not to make mistakes along the way." She laughed softly, a sound that surprised her as much as it did him. "Your modesty is irritating, and your pride is impressive," he replied, smiling back. The station doors opened and a shuttle waited to take them to their next assignment. They walked side by side, not because the law demanded it, but because they had chosen each other as allies, partners in courage and perhaps in life. For the galaxy, the story of the human engineer and the Velkari commander became legend. It was said that a human had faced a warrior's bite, survived, and proven the strength of choice, loyalty, and courage. Across star systems, it inspired hope, respect, and a recognition that humanity's value was not measured by size, strength, or tradition, but by heart, mind, and spirit. And as Eli and Sierra looked out at the stars together, they knew that the bond forged in fire, blood, and bravery was only the beginning. Whatever the galaxy threw at them next, they would face it together, not because law required it, but because they had chosen to. The stars outside shimmered like a promise, endless and bright, and the human engineer and the Velkari warrior stood ready, side by side, bound by courage, choice, and something far stronger than any law.